Take a revealing look back and an exclusive look forward at the world's most famous housewives.
I don't deserve friends like you.
We're aware of that.
Join Desperate Housewives creator Mark Cherry,
This was fun.
his staff, and the experts at People magazine.
He is definitely trouble.
And be the first to see special sneak previews from the new season,
We have so many interesting twists and turns.
Payment in full.
including a behind-the-scenes look at Wisteria Lane's upcoming wedding of the year.
It's great.
It's hot.
And you'll actually be there to witness it.
It's time for these housewives to come clean.
The first character that occurred to me was the character of Lynette, which was kind of based on my mom when, my sisters and I were little. How cool to demonstrate a woman who loves her children, but, they're driving her crazy and she has no help.
Each one is a blessing, yes, but I don't think I can take any more blessings.
I think the Scavos perhaps have the most realistic marriage out of any of the housewives.
It's the new millennium. We're here.
Felicity Huffman is great as Lynette because Felicity Huffman exudes this kind of strength. She wants to keep her family together. She's going to fight for her family, but she is not going to take any guff from anyone.
Tom, if you're going to make a point, why don't you do it now before I hurl the plate at you?
Lynette had a big change this past season. She went back to work.
Hi.
You brought your baby to the interview.
It won't be an ongoing thing.
Lynette is forever trying to balance work life and home life and raising the kids and being good to her husband, and she keeps on trying to juggle everything and ultimately never quite gets it all right.
If one of you would just agree to raise my kids, I wouldn't need a job. Any takers? Yeah, no, I didn't think so.
For much of last season, Tom was keeping a very dark secret from Lynette.
Her name is Nora. I met her before you. We had a one-night stand. I haven't thought about her in years.
Then why are you going to Atlantic City every other weekend to visit her?
I have another child, Lynette.
The result of that was that he has a child that he just recently found out about.
Nora very much wants to be a part of that Scavo household, and I think it's going to be really tough for Lynette to keep her away.
Hi there.
Eva Longoria, of course, brings the sex appeal to the show.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Well, I am Gabrielle Solis. Would it be better if we came back at another time?
Eva is a great comedic actress, and I think she plays a superficial housewife really well.
But last year, she was in the position of having to fight for her marriage, in some cases, literally.
First of all, who hasn't wanted to punch a nun in church?
Not me. So, not me.
Yeah, we did a cat fight in a church. You don't get to do that on any old show.
Last season was a bit of a role reversal for Gabrielle. She spent the first year of the show kind of messing up her marriage by carrying on an affair with an underage gardener.
Gabby had an affair? You didn't know?
No. Contrast that with end of last season, she was ready to be a perfect wife and mother-to-be.
I want to have a baby with you.
Unfortunately, she miscarried, and that left her unable to have any children of her own.
Then they decided to have the maid carry the baby.
So the Solises turned to Chaumet and asked her to be a surrogate mom for them.
What?
Oh, well, it would be our baby. It would just be growing inside of you.
She thought she had it figured out when she was going to have a surrogate mother in Chaumet, but even that turned out to be a bad move for her.
What do we actually know about our neighbors?
I thought Susan would be an interesting kind of anchor character. Terry Hatcher is great as Susan because she has a real knack for screwball comedy. All these terrible things that happen to Susan become funny because she makes them funny.
I wrote a thing for her first season where she ended up cracking a bunch of ribs, so I feel it was a leaning against a table. She'll keep going.
Well, Terry, plays kind of the hapless, lovelorn single mom to a T. Her scenes with Nicolette Sheridan, I think, are especially satisfying because it's kind of like a Crystal and Alexis catfight going on all the time, so it's fun to see them constantly screw each other's lives up.
Edie burned down Susan's house. I mean, you don't get bitchier than that. Drag queens are nicer to each other.
Get a load of you. You look so pretty.
I hardly recognize you.
I have a date right now with Mike.
Mike and Susan are the Ross and Rachel of Wisteria Lane. The gods are always conspiring to keep them apart, but we know in our hearts that these two are destined to be together.
I think Susan gets a bad rap for constantly chasing after Mike, but
he really does believe that's the love of her life, though, so, you know, I mean,
he's a great guy.
Well, yeah, he's what Mark says he thinks is the secret fantasy of all women, which is a hot guy who can fix things.
If you ever have a clog.
I then wanted to do something with a perfect housewife, someone who was very Martha Stewart-esque, but was trying to achieve such a level of perfection in her life that she was driving her family crazy. You know, and that's how Brie Van de Kamp was born.
She was the perfect homemaker, and then slowly over every episode we saw a few more cracks appearing.
We're, wasps, Dr. Goldfein. Not acknowledging the elephant in the room is what we do best.
You'd settle for that? A life filled with repression and denial?
And the dinner parties? Don't forget the dinner parties.
There may be no better cast role on television than that angular, prim Marcia Cross as Brie. It's really perfect.
I am not sure, but I think there was a compliment in there somewhere, so thank you. Honey, what are you doing in my bed?
You see my pants? I can't...
Kind of hard to beat the moment when you find your son in bed with your supposedly straight boyfriend. So I think as far as water cooler moments goes, that has to be up there.
By the way, one of the things not based on my life with my mother, I just want to make that clear.
I can't be around you anymore. I'm just not strong enough.
Brie had reached her breaking point with Andrew, and she finally had to just cut him loose. So she just gave him some money in a suitcase and dropped him off. Brie, by the end of last year, felt enormous remorse over that and felt that it was a terrible thing for her to have done.
That's one of those moments where you write something, you think it's good, but the fans let you know, no, this one was great.
Hello, my name is Brie Van de Kamp, and I'd like to admit myself for psychiatric observation.
All right, what seems to be the problem?
I think I'm about to have a nervous breakdown.
Stay tuned for exclusive sneak previews from the new season of Desperate Housewives.
Found her.
Xiao Mei was working as a slave laborer for one of the other neighborhood women. Well, when the police busted the woman, she came to live with the Solisas.
Oh, the slave. Wow. Looks well fed.
Xiao Mei started out as someone you barely even paid attention to. Well, by the end of the season, she was threatening to end Carlos and Gabby's marriage.
We are a week into this pregnancy and you're already putting Xiao Mei's needs before mine.
Well, she's the priority now. She's the mother of my child.
I think he fell in love a little bit with the things that she represented that Gabrielle isn't. You know, that Gabrielle,
innocence.
yeah, that Gabrielle has a lot of fantastic things, but
Innocence is not one of them.
Yeah, he was a hero to her, and she wanted to give him what she was getting the impression that he wanted.
You're the one that gave me permission, remember?
To have meaningless sex, Carlos, not to sleep with the woman who's carrying our child.
Look, Gabby, you have every right to be mad at me. So I'm gonna go and check into a hotel room and let you cool down, but we are going to work this out.
Forget the hotel, Carlos. Get a lease.
Gabrielle, at the top of the season, finds herself in the middle of a hideously messy divorce with Carlos, but she is also living with the surrogate who is carrying her and Carlos's baby. One of the interesting creative choices that Mark made for the beginning of the season is that he wanted season 3 to begin 6 months after season 2 ended. And this means that you're allowed to, accelerate things and bring each of the ladies to a very interesting point.
When we open on Gabrielle, she's about to have the baby, she's about to be a mother, only her marriage is falling apart.
It's a pot that's ready to boil over.
I think now we kind of root for them. Even though he did have an affair with the maid, I have a feeling that they are going to get back together.
I think Gabby is so much more fun when she's being bad.
Every time she tries to be a better person,
Tries to be good.
she learns that that's not the way to go. So
Why not be bad?
I want to see her be bad.
Gabrielle now finds herself having to wait on her own maid because a woman whom she loathes but whom she has no choice but to take care of because this woman is